Hey everyone, as promised, we are here to cover Age of Apocalypse and are going to keep covering it until we actually get through this story. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out the attached links for the rest of this alternate timeline story where the Earth is ruled by the X-Men villain known as Apocalypse. Today we're going to be focusing on Magneto making his first moves to save this world from oblivion and restore the timeline back to the way it should be, using agents such as Gambit to achieve that result. Then, Weapon X and Jean Grey work with the surviving members of the human race, who reveal their final plans to defeat Apocalypse once and for all. Increasingly certain that the world is not the way it should be, Magneto tells his core team of X-Men, consisting of Quicksilver, Iceman, Sabretooth, Nightcrawler, Morph, Storm, and Banshee, that he has come to believe the stranger Bishop and what the man claims. His followers are deeply skeptical of what this strange mutant says, and try to convince Magneto otherwise, but they are interrupted when a portal opens around them. Their friend Blink emerges from it with fellow mutant Sunfire behind her. They aren't supposed to directly teleport into their headquarters like this, as it could expose their concealed location, and this worries the X-Men. Sure enough, one of Apocalypse's men tries to follow them through Blink's portal, so Blink closes it around him. Sunfire explains that they had to make this risky return home to warn the X-Men that Apocalypse has ignored the agreement he made with the human race, and instead, Saberner's son, Holocaust, has personally resumed slaughtering humans across North America. Shiro, whose home of Japan was completely wiped out by Apocalypse, refuses to let this continue. In New York City, the Dark Mutant Overlord is informed by one of his underlings that they are closing in on the location of the X-Men, much to the delight of Saberner. At the mansion, Rogue treats Sunfire when Gambit stops by to say goodbye. Though Rogue has moved on, they both sense that as he goes on a mission for Magneto, this is the last time they will ever see each other again. So they share a heartfelt goodbye. Above them, Nightcrawler confronts Magneto about his plan to alter the timeline. Eric admits he has a lot of fear about this plan, but worries if they do nothing, this world is truly doomed. Though Nightcrawler, in this timeline a cold and vicious killer, has his doubts, he implicitly trusts Magneto more than anyone else, and puts his faith in his leader. In the X-Men's hangar, Quicksilver discovers Rogue, Blink, Sunfire, Sabretooth, and the mutant Wildchild as they all prepare to go and stop Holocaust on their own. Pietro is especially frustrated at this because the X-Men are on the eve of a planned evacuation of humans still living along North America's east coast. Rogue and the others will be needed for that mission. Morph and Sunfire both show up in the hangar, revealing they are going too. But Morph manages to lighten the mood and get Pietro to understand they can't prioritize the humans on the East Coast over those being called in the West. Rogue admits to Quicksilver she couldn't bring herself to say goodbye to her husband Magneto, as it would imply she would never see him again. Promising to return, she and Pietro share a hug, and the team leaves. Observing this, Bishop approaches Quicksilver and asks why the X-Men are willing to sacrifice themselves for what he sees as a pretty futile effort. Pietro brusquely explains that this is their world and they will fight for it or die trying, regardless of what Bishop has to say. Still confused by his jumbled memories, Bishop still has enough sense of the original timeline to know that Professor Xavier would be very proud of these X-Men keeping hope alive in such dire circumstances. Far off, in a ruined city, a young 12-year-old mutant named Jubilee runs for her life. Apocalypse unleashed nuclear war on the world when she was only 6, and the young woman has known little else in the world other than the domain created in the fallout. Having stolen medical supplies, she is attacked and nearly overwhelmed by the Infinite Army, until she is rescued by 2 of her fellow team members, Sunspot and Hunk. They are all part of a group of rebels known as the X-Ternals. They go to deliver the supplies to a safe house for humans, where they meet up with their human liaison, Lila Cheney, who will distribute their supplies, and informs the trio that the leader of the X-Ternals, Gambit, has returned. The 3 are stunned to find him waiting for the group with Magneto. This is unexpected to the X-Ternals, as Remy had a major falling out with the X-Men and Eric over his love for Rogue. Gambit reveals he has set aside those differences and agreed to a mission on behalf of Eric, surprising the team even further. But Gambit has become convinced that the nature of this mission is more important than just about anything else. With Eric's guidance, they sneak through some old tunnels once used by a group called the Morlocks before Apocalypse took over. They find a door where, according to one of Magneto's sources, inside is an experimental vault full of valuable scientific artifacts held by Apocalypse. They do indeed find a vast array of technology, but also a group of Madureira waiting for them. The Madureira are elite officers in the Infinite Army, clones of the mutant Jamie Madrox. They are all genetically programmed with a religious devotion to Apocalypse, and thus attack the X-Ternals on sight. After a quick fight, the mutants are able to destroy the Madureira, and with the help of Magneto's contact, a human researcher named Peter Corbeau, they are able to determine the Macran crystal is currently in Shi'ar space. Magneto then reveals that Lila is actually a mutant, able to operate a unique machine stored here that will open a gateway to Shi'ar space. Lila herself was completely unaware of this, but Eric learned of such things after saving her from being a prisoner of Mr. Sinister years ago, who had been experimenting on Lila and had built this machine in the hopes that he might be able to use it on her one day. Lila is hooked up to the machine and quickly able to awaken her powers once exposed to a visor that shows her the stars of space. Just as she starts to open a portal to a Shi'ar world housing the crystal, the Infinite Army arrives. Magneto orders Remy and the X-Ternals to guard Lila and go through the portal when it opens, while he holds off the forces of Apocalypse on his own. In a short time, Lila manages to open the portal and the X-Ternals dive through, though one high-ranking Infinite officer manages to slip past Magneto and follow the team through the gateway. The portal closes, leaving Eric mired in grief and fear. His plan to restore the timeline relies on Gambit and his team getting that crystal, but there is little more he can do for them at this point, and only hopes they will succeed. He apologizes to Peter, knowing that Corbeau will be killed by Apocalypse over this, when the scientist's betrayal is discovered. Peter is only one of a small amount of humans granted privileges in Apocalypse's domain that few others of his race enjoy. Corbeau bitterly dismisses these words, viewing Magneto with cynicism, and instead, to spite Apocalypse, he activates a self-destruct device within the vault, choosing to die here on his own terms. Magneto leaves the man to his fate. In London, the Human Council asks Weapon X and Jean Grey for assistance with a mission. The two are given an advanced Sentinel robot, which they ride to Apocalypse's seawall in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. This wall is designed to withstand thousands of Sentinels, allowing Apocalypse and his forces to ward off any attack from the surviving human race. The Sentinel, possessing new human technology, manages to get Jean and Logan onto a radar control tower. The two humans leap onto the seawall and break into the tower, and inside they are attacked by a vicious, cybernetic, snake-like monster, one of many experimental creations by Mr. Sinister. Logan attacks it, but Jean separates the two, scaring off the monster with her powers and insisting to her partner that they focus on the mission at hand, as they have a very limited window of time to complete their task. Meanwhile, Apocalypse's forces call for reinforcements, teleporting in Havoc. Alex Summers, viewing this as a trivial intrusion, is outraged he was put through the relatively risky process of teleportation, so he attacks the Infinites who summoned him before turning his attention to Logan and Jean. In spite of this, the two manage to take out the control center for this area of the seawall, escape Alex's attack, and return to the Sentinel. The giant machine is able to detach its own hands, which fly through the air, grab Havoc, and shove him back through the teleporter, sending Alex away while Logan and Jean are able to escape. With this part of the seawall now disabled, the two watch as a fleet of Sentinels move around them, heading to America's east coast to begin a planned evacuation of humans as part of the operation coordinated overseas with the X-Men. The sight of this gives Jean hope, though Logan warns her the evacuation still has a long way to go before it is complete. Apocalypse gets word of the seawall's partial collapse, while Cyclops informs the ruler that Mr. Sinister appears to have told the human race that Ansabanur plans to wipe them all out. Apocalypse is impressed that Sinister would have the gall to do such a thing, and Scott promises him that his forces are scouring North America in search of the traitor as they speak. The Great Mutant seems unconcerned about all of that, though, claiming to Scott that he has already taken steps himself to draw out Mr. Sinister. Dark Beast then contacts Apocalypse, informing him that Havoc returned from the seawall with one of the Sentinel hands fused to his body on a molecular level, due to the teleporter technology. While Alex will need some time to recover, he did tell them of Logan's presence at the seawall. Scott, long an enemy of Weapon X, is furious to hear this, while Apocalypse muses on what this all means. He suspects that they were the ones that delivered Mr. Sinister's information to the human leadership in Europe, and considers the consequences of such a leak. Indeed, at that very moment, the Human Council is considering what they should do with Sinister's data. They now have proof that Apocalypse has no intention to negotiate with the human race in good faith, merely biding his time until he can wipe them all out. They all agree they will need to strike out against Apocalypse first, which impresses Logan, but worries Jean. When the Council suggests they wipe out North America with nuclear weapons, Jean feels her fears are being confirmed. But for most of the humans, they have come to accept Apocalypse's kill or be killed mentality. As well, this would avenge the parts of the world Apocalypse himself has already destroyed with nuclear hellfire. Suddenly, a young female mutant named Magma attacks the Council. Apocalypse has no intention to allow the human race an attempt to retaliate against him now that they know Apocalypse will wipe them all out, so he sent Magma to kill them all. She blasts Brian Braddock of the Council with her fire powers before being impaled in the back by Weapon X. Dying, Magma taunts both Logan and the humans, saying that more of her will come to finish what she started. This only serves to encourage Brian to go even further with the human race's plans for nuclear war. He argues the Council should institute a policy of scorched earth. If Apocalypse is so intent on seizing the world for the mutant race, he can have it. But the human race will ensure it is a Pyrrhic victory. Apocalypse will be able to conquer nothing but radioactive dust. Logan supports Brian's decision and nihilistic attitude, feeling the human race is finally ready to stand up to Apocalypse. Jean, however, recognizes this for what it is, a descent into complete madness. Next up, we turn our attention to the forces of Apocalypse and learn what Mr. Sinister is up to. Stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.